Hello, Internet. I haven't done something like this in a long time, so this is me, and you know who I am, because I talk about myself all the time, but I'm going to have my friends, I guess. Celeste, we'll start with you, because in my overlay, you're on this side first. So
yeah.
why don't we start with an intro, just, tell us about you and who you are and all, where we can find you and whatnot.
Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Celeste Konowich. I am the Dungeon Master for the Venture Maidens podcast, which is an all-maiden, all-actual play podcast where we play Dungeons & Dragons. And we do a lot of other nerdy stuff. We live stream games almost every Wednesday now, getting on the every Wednesday. Really active on social media, big old nerds. And yeah. Do you want me to plug handles here, or should we do that at the end?
I mean, why not do it now and at the end?
Okay.
Because
find us on Twitter, especially at Venture Maidens, or me personally at C Konowich, and then our awesome website from our chief artist sitting over here. So if you wanna start over there,
yeah,
go for
take it away, Brittany.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I play Arnadel, Ithil on Venture Maidens podcast, and occasionally DM. I have DMing coming up on Wednesday. I'm really excited. And I also, as Celeste said, do all the artwork for the Venture Maidens. And I made the website, so check that out. It's the www.theventuremaidens.com. Yeah, and from there you can click on all of the social media links to everything that you would ever want to use.
You'd ever want in the whole wide world.
The whole wide world, folks. Yes. All right, so we got a little bit about who you guys are, a little bit of intro stuff. So, first of all, this is a GenCon 50 review that just happened like 2 weeks ago. It seems like forever ago already.
Seriously.
But just as a disclaimer, because we can't compare it to other Gen Cons, we can compare it to other conventions maybe, but this was all of our first time at Gen Con, so keep that in mind. But let's talk a little bit about your perception of Gen Con. Obviously, you're gamers, you've heard of Gen Con. So what were you thinking before, like what did you think about Gen Con having never gone before? Like what did you anticipate in your mind what it would be like? So Celeste, we'll start. I guess we'll keep that Celeste and Brittany.
Okay, great. All right. I was super excited to go to Gen Con. It's been a long time since I've been able to go to cons. Basically, since when I was back in college and earlier, I was able to go to conventions, not having a real job, but it's been about 4 or 5 years since I was able to go to a con. And then Gen Con of them all, which has been like this mythic legend, right? Like hearing of it. Even just reading about it in that new graphic novel about Gary Gygax, I was like so excited, just like, oh my god, Gen Con. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, Brittany sent that to me as a present. It was great. So I was so excited to go and just meet so many people. And since the Venture Maidens podcast is relatively new, we've only been around for about a year. We had never met anybody in the community before, so I was just so stoked before going. Wait, was the question how we felt before?
Yeah, and again, like what your perception. Yeah, exactly.
Expectations. I expected to play a lot of games. I expected to meet a lot of people. And I really honestly didn't know what else was going to happen. The mystique of Gen Con is sort of overwhelming. So those, I guess, were my expectations walking in.
All right, Brittany, how about you? It sounds like it may be something similar, but let's hear your side of things.
I've actually only been to 2 cons.
Oh, wow.
And Gen Con was the first one that I had a pass to. And the other one was Comic-Con just a month previously.
So you're new to cons in general.
Super new, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Nassim and I just tailgated Comic-Con, and we went dressed up and to hand out business cards and try to drum up interest in Venture Maidens. And I tried to do a little side hustle for my tattoo presence in San Diego. And it was really disappointing. It was nobody. I had this realization that was mostly about movies and television.
Not a lot about comics, funny enough.
Not a lot about comics or games.
No.
So we were just kind of, So I was like, okay, Gen Con's going to be much, much better because it's very focused on gaming. So I was like, okay, but I'm going to go in neutrally. I'm just going to not have expectations. I think maybe a week or maybe a week and a half before I wrote Celeste, and I'm like, hey, what are we doing? Like, did you sign up for anything? Like, should I sign up for anything? And Celeste is like, I don't know. And so we just showed up, and I didn't know what to expect. I found, I was like, okay, I'm down to play a game, but also I just kind of want to take it all in. I definitely knew I wanted to cosplay. I did prepare for that, and that was awesome. I was surprised that people wanted to take their picture with us. It was very pleasant, and got a lot of cool feedback with that. And then, meeting people. I knew that we were going to hopefully meet some people from Twitter, such as yourself.
You were on our list, dude.
Yes.
We made it happen.
Yeah, it was a good time. Well, anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say that my having neutral expectations, the experience far exceeded my neutral expectations.
Like
they really.
Review already. We've got the whole interview.
That's okay. That's okay. It's fine. We can echo back to this as we get further on. And similar for myself. I'm no stranger to conventions. I've been doing the cosplay thing and the gaming thing and all this stuff for a long time. First Gen Con, I thought about going last year because there was like a family vacation I really didn't want to go to. So I was like trying to can I get to Gen Con instead of going this vacation? And I missed that. And I wasn't going to go this year. I had no intention whatsoever of going to Gen Con this year. And then it was just slowly watching everybody I know on Twitter going like, hey, are you going to be at Gen Con? And like the lovely folks who are, gracious enough to donate things to me to do giveaways and do work with me behind the scenes. They're like, hey, are you going to Gen Con? And I'm like, no. And after about saying no 10 times, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So I guess yes. And then
that was super similar for us. I mean, we weren't thinking about going to Gen Con until, I don't know, probably about 5 months ago, because we never expected this podcast thing to take off. And then the guys from our network, Don't Split the Podcast Network, were like, hey, you want to go to Gen Con? Like, of course you should be at Gen Con. Be on a panel at Gen Con. And we're just sitting there like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, people want to talk to us. Sure.
Yeah, so I guess that sort of answers why now, of all. You guys have heard about, Brittany, we know you're new, and Celeste, you've been talking about, this is this myth that is Gen Con. 50 years. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
And then obviously the podcast is kind of picked up and started to take off, really. So is that the driving factor behind, why this year over last year or potentially next year?
Oh, totally. Because, we honestly, before the podcast, we weren't tapped into, certainly not the Twitter community and not the RPG community at large. I've been DMing and playing D&D for a long time, but never, accessed, this whole world of gamers and streamers and writers and module producers.
Sure.
This is all so mysterious before this year. And feeling like we had a place to come here and kind of being able to talk to people. And when people are what do you do? At a company party or something, and actually having an answer to that. Mm-hmm. I think it made the intimidation factor a whole lot less in deciding to go.
All right. So we kind of talked about what we thought about ahead of time. So before we dive into the convention itself, let's talk about the location. This is in Indianapolis. We know it's Gen Con because it started in Lake Geneva. Now it's in Indianapolis. Gary Con still takes place in Lake Geneva as a shot. I take a shine back to Mr. Gygax himself. But obviously, you guys strangers to Indianapolis for this, right? They had never been to Indianapolis before.
I had. For a little fun fact, I was a flight attendant after I graduated college, and I had an
inside
overnight
track
in Indianapolis a couple of times.
Okay.
So I've been, but not in that context. I basically would go to my hotel that was by the airport and hole up in my room until I flew out the next day. So gotcha. I think I went to a bar once.
All right.
A while ago.
So, it was, as far as I can tell, and maybe, you guys know a little bit different or not, this is basically the center of Indianapolis. The convention center is more or less right smack in the middle, and that's where this was located. So it was. I mean, we'll talk about the layout in a little bit, but overall placement for a convention of this size in this city where it was, good, bad, want it smaller, bigger, better place, different. I don't know. You tell me.
I thought it was very positive experience. I thought it had enough space and it had enough things close to it, so it wasn't like every single bar in the area was crammed or every single restaurant was crammed. You could definitely spread out and have your space if you wanted to leave the convention. Super easy to go, grab a bite somewhere, come back. I always, Brittany and I, two women walking around in cosplay at night, I always felt fine.
Sure.
There was never a moment I felt unsafe, except this one sketchy hotel room I had to book the first night. But that was a weird, and that wasn't in Indianapolis, just outside.
Gotcha. Sure.
It looked like somebody like Jack Nicholson from The Shining had been there.
The pictures were terrifying. Don't stay there, folks.
Bad.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. But the convention itself, where it was located, the city was just, it was open and awesome, and even the local people at the bars were so nice and friendly and like excited about the convention as opposed to like, and I know in Comic-Con, when Comic-Con comes to San Diego, all the businesses around there are like, screw you guys, you're wearing a costume, I'm gonna give you horrible service, like you're destroying my world.
Yeah, I noticed that, again, like you said, there was a ton of food. If you're going for the first time, you're not going to be able to want to find a bar or a place to eat. There are tons of places just within the convention itself, but within 2 miles in any direction, there is countless options for food, from food trucks to bars to even restaurants. There are there's people out playing music, and there's even a couple concert halls where there's bands playing and things like that. But to your point, Celeste, Indianapolis embraces GenCon.
Absolutely.
I've been to a lot of conventions where they don't know, like people in the area just don't know. Like you're walking down the street in a costume and they're just like, what are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Problem.
Yeah, like is there something happening this weekend? It's like, no, this is just my everyday. I just do this all the time. But yeah, they're like, there's
Pink Power Ranger.
The signs up in like all around, like welcome GenCon, like in even like the further you get out, restaurants are still have like stuff outside like welcome GenConners, which was the first time I've ever experienced this at any convention, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that was so. I think the other aspect of that, since recognizing that the city really welcomed the convention and like prepared for it, I think adding to the fact that we never had to wait a very long time to get a seat or our food or our drinks.
True.
Even in like the peak, nights where the most activity was happening, I think that's also because the restaurants like make sure that they're well staffed and everybody's really prepared for it. I don't want to shit talk San Diego because I live here and I love this city. I have a blast here, but my experience I went Friday and Saturday for Comic-Con, and it was just a hot mess. Like I had to walk, Nassim and I had to walk like at least 30 minutes to get out of central downtown just to get a lift.
Wow.
And Celeste
we should mention too that Nassim is another Venture Maiden.
You should, yes, in case we haven't mentioned that already.
I keep referring to Nassim. What? No, everybody doesn't know that? Sorry.
It's all right.
So we did, Celeste and I think there was one night that I didn't have very good reception, and that was probably just because of all the buildings around us, and we had to walk a little bit, but that was it. We always got rides super quick. Everyone was wonderfully friendly and welcoming, and generally curious. Even if they weren't into the Gen Con, they're like, oh, what are you dressed up? I saw Darth Vader earlier. Yeah. And the convention hall actually was also super awesome. I was a little worried. I get pretty anxious when I'm in large crowds. And we never had to wait in line to use the bathroom. That's a big thing.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I'm going to establish that. The bathrooms were always immaculately clean, like another big thing. Clean experience,
Sure.
Never waiting in line, never having to like shove to get into anything. It was I was really impressed with that. Like, really, really impressed with that experience for Gen Con. And I know that sounds like an old lady kind of thing to consider.
It's literally a section on this outline. So that was a perfect segue into... So let's talk about the layout of the convention. Because this is something that may be like, I guess maybe a detriment in Gen Con's favor, is there's so much in so many places, there's no way you can see it all in 4 days.
Right.
There's absolutely no way.
That means you just have to go back.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe that's the plan. So the main hub, I guess I would say, is the Indiana Convention Center. It is 2 floors. That is where your vendor hall is and your demo hall, and then, but like literally every room off of that and most of the hallways are filled with events. Whether it's, games or whatnot, tons of that, and then the whole second floor, everything up there, ballrooms and whatnot. There's about 4 sky bridges that connect to this from the Indiana Convention Center to hotels, and those 4 hotels also have Gen Con events going in them, as well as the Lucas Oil Stadium, and then there were also events happening off-site at various, a couple miles out. There was like the Critical Role live show was at the Old National Theater. I think the They Might Be Giants convent was at a different, like a concert hall. Like, so what are your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, again, Brittany, you've only tailgated Comic-Con, so this is probably a crazy radical experience. But Celeste, what about you, having gone to other conventions? How did this stack up as far as craziness and the layout of this whole situation?
So the craziness of the layout sort of, and the amount of events sort of connects to one of my bigger issues I had with Gen Con. I think Gen Con isn't very accessible because of those things. So it's like the first day, we went in and we tried to pick up our event books. They ran out of event books like immediately. So Brittany had to wait. We actually got one from a bartender who somebody had left it behind when they were drunk. That's how we had to get our event booklet. For each day, because they were just gone the whole first day we were there.
All right.
And then just the sheer quantity of events, and when you were signing up before the event ever happened, like just trying to get your tickets to go to events or your registration, the website is absolute garbage.
It is.
And everybody
100%.
knows it's absolute garbage because other people have designed third-party websites to register for tickets on the Gen Con website. And something I heard about the book, somebody was looking at that, they're like, oh, you shouldn't use that, you should get the third-party app. It's not an official Gen Con app, but somebody has made an app so you can more easily navigate the events. Like, that kind of stuff, walking in, if you're just coming into it, that's why Brittany and I really didn't even try to get most of these passes. We just figured we'd show up and try to figure it out because it's so overwhelming, the amount of stuff. It's an amazing capacity for things, and it's so great that there are that many events, but like, there's no way to get in there if you don't understand what's happening.
I mean, I think to the other side of that, I think that it also works if you do have a good game plan, like in the same capacity, having that many events caters to a huge audience. And, most people that play games usually play a bunch of different types of games. They have many different passions. So I think for first timers, I wish there was for people who've never been, I wish there was maybe some kind of orientation website, or I definitely agree the website was not very easy to navigate. It wasn't very intuitive. I had to really read. Oh, God forbid you have to read. But you know what I mean? Most people just want to click.
When you have a search, you're 50 years, first of all. This convention has been going on for 50 years. There are newer conventions that have been going on for less than 5 that are better organized with better first-party apps and first-party scheduling. The fact that I go to search for an event, I'm blown away. I go to search for an event on the official Gen Con event finder on the website. I have 3 options to search. I can search by the day, I can search by the location, and I can search by the game. And when I say game, I don't mean I want to play a Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition game or a New World of Darkness game.
It's the name of...
I can search by board game, tabletop game, tabletop role-playing game, role-playing tabletop game, card game, deck-building card game, and you can't search by any of them together. I can search by the game, the time, or the location, but I can't search by the game and the time.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
How is this? I'm blown away.
That's why I didn't have any plans, because I devoted maybe 30 minutes to looking, and I made no headway with that. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just probably get roped into something or not play.
And not just that, you need to register for a lot of these games. Like, these things that you can't find, you can't just roll up and be like, hey, can I do it? And they're like, oh, we already sold out of general event tickets. And you're like, what? I didn't even know this was here, and people already know and have already bought all the tickets, so there's no spots left.
Yeah.
That happened to me, like, all of Friday. I was like, hey, this is a cool game. Can I play? And they're like, we're already sold out. And I was like, what?
Well, and then they're like, we sold out immediately when the tickets went on sale, because that's when everybody grabs, like, the big-name games, and they're gone.
People giving their tickets away, and, like, people not showing up, and I think there was a bit of a clusterfuck with that, like there should be a standby list or something. I don't know. I'm not a problem solver for this, but just an idea.
So this is something like I am an event coordinator. That is what I do professionally. So it was very frustrating to see like this convention with so much potential, like have these back end problems, especially when I bet you 60% of the people were there could design a better website than what Gen Con.
Exactly.
I bet people would do it for free because they love Gen Con. It's like,
I do want to say, despite all of those flaws, I'm so excited to go back.
Absolutely.
And actually, I'd probably go back and not have a plan again. I mean, one thing that's really cool, kind of making, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm wishy-washy or flip-floppy, but like, considering all of those things, the spirit, like the spirit of everyone there, everyone's stoked about gaming, I honestly would be super down to have tickets for like 2 days and then spend the other 2 days like gaming at bars. I had just as much of a blast like pulling up a table and we played the My Little Pony RPG. I was like, hey, let's go to the Hyatt. They have this beer that I really like. Do you guys mind? And we posted up and played, our My Little Pony RPG there.
And to that point, which is just a great point, most of the stuff you don't need a ticket to get into. Like, you don't need a Gen Con badge. All of those 4 hotels we told you about, you can just walk in and go play games. Yeah. Like, you may need to buy the event tickets, the general event tickets. Like, there was 2 hotels I didn't even go to. The JW Marriott, which is the one we spent the end of the My Little Pony game in, that was where all of the official Dungeons & Dragons stuff was happening. If you had the general tickets to just get in, you could just walk in there and then post up to play. You didn't need to have a badge for Gen Con to get there. Right. You really only needed that for the vendor hall and the expo hall, and that was it. Everything else was just... Go ahead.
By the way, that vendor hall was tight as fuck. Like, I would buy the badge just to go to the vendor hall. Like, I had such an awesome time. Celeste and I went there 2 days. I think you and I spent the most amount of time in the vendor hall.
Just getting to talk to all the game designers who were selling their stuff. That was so cool.
Yeah, just seeing all of the cool stuff. I think we spent probably a very solid hour and a half trying on leather armor.
There are. If you search again, everybody's Twitter handle is below them here. So if you want to search, you'll see some pictures.
Yes.
Oh man,
I bought some. I bought an armor
I was
sleeve
so
because
jealous.
I couldn't say no.
Yeah, she was rocking it. That's what you were rocking on Saturday, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It looked amazing, and I was like, I have some room on my credit card. No.
No.
I'm paying my credit cards off. I'm trying to get out of debt. So the voice was loud enough to tell me no, thankfully, but also like, damn it, that armor was so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about and again, just to your point, bathroom or event, there really weren't lines, and the crowds weren't unmanageable, which is sometimes, like, I've gone to DragonCon before, and DragonCon is another convention between 4 hotels connected by sky bridges. The only difference is the parties and everything happens in those hotels. It's not like there's a central hub like the convention center and then 4 satellites. It is basically a square. And you go to the Skybridge to the next hotel and it just stops. It is dead stop traffic and you're just slow moving with a bunch of sweaty people in costumes in literally a glass greenhouse as the light is coming in. And then, of course, you know what's going to happen. Someone's going to be like, oh my god, I love your costume. Let me get a picture. Stop everybody in the middle. Let me take a picture. And then everybody else is like, come on, just go.
Now is not the time.
Yes.
Now is not the time.
And it was not the case. Like, I could get anywhere I wanted to go. The longest line I waited in, which, not a surprise, was for the Critical Role live show. But that was a ticketed event. We all knew we were going to get in if you bought tickets. And it was just the amount. It was 10,000 people. Like, it was just the amount of people. It took time to get everybody in. But other than that, I could roll up to anything I wanted to do at pretty much any time and just walk right in. And it was not a problem. I didn't have to wait to get in the vendor hall. I didn't have to wait to get in the expo hall, the demo hall. Everything was just wide open. That was, I'm sure, because even smaller conventions that I've gone to, there's still crowds issues, and that was not the case.
Yeah. That was my favorite part of it. Just the movement, being able to move.
Yeah.
I want to give a solid shout out to Rock Bottom Brewery.
We had
a blast there.
Had our backs the whole time. I wonder if our names are still up on their chalkboard. Probably not. But
we have there was the host. What was his name? Drake.
I think so.
There was also Nate.
Super nice kid. We had Nate.
Yep.
The brewer.
Yeah, I met him.
Brewing.
Yeah, we took Ted.
Yeah, it was like walking. I mean, like, you know, I'm no stranger to hanging out with other folks that are like pseudo big on the internet, and like these guys are up and coming, but obviously blowing up, as some of you may know, which we could talk about more at the end. But
I should have talked about Podcast Annihilation.
We'll talk about it at the end.
That later.
But you want to talk about feeling like a celebrity is like rolling into this random bar. That's like, mind you, I'm going there and I'm with Celeste and I was like, hey, let's go get some food. I haven't eaten today. And she's like, cool, I know a place. And I'm watching as we walk by. Like, I don't know how many other bars and restaurants. And I'm like, oh, no, okay, not that one. All right, where are we going? And she walks me like 3/4 of a mile away from the convention center, and I'm like, there, like I could have, like, there's good, or that over there, no, okay, no. And then I walk in, and she's just like, you know, like, this is the closest thing I feel like I will ever get to a true Cheers experience, where I'm walking in with Norm, as like everybody's like, oh my, and then like everybody comes over, like, oh hey, how you doing? Good to see you back here. Is your friend coming? And I'm like, what is going on? Like, everybody knows who they are. And I'm like, this is like, I just blown away. And yeah, I guess apparently the behind the scenes is they've been there a bunch before that Saturday. So yeah, they were on the chalkboard. I mean, that was pointed out to me as soon as we walked in. Like, hey, look, we're on their chalkboard. Check that out.
Yeah, so Celeste and I headed over to Rock Bottom. On Thursday, we had a tragic event happen where we got really screwed over, and that's a story for another time. So we're like, God damn it, we need a drink, like, right now. So we were gonna originally just go to CVS and like grab some snacks and try to be like, you know, economical about our trip.
Boo.
Yeah, and we're like, you know what? We see Rock Bottom in like big ass fucking letters, you know.
And I'm like, that's it.
We felt like we were at Rock Bottom, so we're just like, okay, we gotta go there. There's nobody there. We have this really fucking nice ass bartender. The host was really fucking. Everyone was nice, and so we ended up getting pretty tanked. And
we solved our boarding crisis. That's another thing, the hotel accommodations. I think if you plan ahead well enough for Gen Con and you get a hotel room in the city, it's awesome.
I can tell you that I didn't do that either.
But it fell through. That shit sucked. That shit sucked ass.
I didn't do that either. I started with the plan to sleep in my car, which I did one night. Only one. And then I changed my mind. But I will tell you, as of right now, 90% of the host hotels, actually all of the host hotels and everything within a half a mile is already booked for Gen Con weekend next year. because I checked.
Yeah.
They're already booked.
God.
Also, doesn't hurt that Gen Con lists their event dates on the website for 3 years out. So you know when they're going again. But anyway.
Damn.
So we already talked about the vendor hall. Fantastic. There was everything in there. Some booths, which I thought was a great idea, was like ChessX, who everybody's going to go to because everybody wants their dice. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, there are a ton of other dice companies with a ton of really cool dice and unique dice, but ChessX is, 90, I would guess if you see somebody rolling dice at a shop, there's like a 9 out of 10 chance it's a ChessX die. Yeah. They had 3 booths in
Which was so great.
the vendor hall.
Which was so
And they were
smart.
all packed. They were all packed.
And, I mean, you go to, like, a PAX East or a Dragon Con, and there's one. And it is just like...
Yeah,
and it's just like, you're like, no, okay. And you're, like, trying to weasel your way in to get...
Can I look at the red ones? No.
And, like, you get in there, and you're like, then you see the dice you want, of course, like, over there. And you're like, oh, shit, how am I going to get over there? This is going to be, like, a half an hour of me, like, trying to inch my way over.
I do want to put some massive high fives out for the... artists that were doing handmade things, like local artists that had some you got this sweet ass brooch. It was handmade. Like,
it was pretty sweet.
There's a lot of people making their own stuff there, so it's not just these big companies that make these games and game appliance or
accessories,
game paraphernalia.
Yeah, sure.
But there's like local artists, artisans making stuff too. So that was awesome to see. Like if you want cosplay stuff, you got the wigs. You got your friend that has
the 5 Wits wigs. I'll give them a little plug. Why not? That's a thing. But yeah, you're right. There was artists. There was big name companies like USAopoly, which I spent an unplanned amount of time waiting at that booth. But that's another story. And there's again a lot of gaming companies that you recognize, again like ChessX and folks that do, major Troll and Toad and Miniature Market and Cool Stuff Inc. And yeah, that's fine. Do your thing. I can talk for hours. So go ahead. Go.
I missed it. What happened?
She put up a sign that said, "I'm going to get more gin."
Oh.
I mean, this is a video podcast, so you can put that up there. But people are still going to see it.
My sweet boyfriend just topped my beer off. I was like, "Can you come bring me more beer? Thanks."
So. Yeah,
no,
it was.
I think honestly, like, well, and you knew that there were like I don't want to say not giveaways, but like discounts. At the final day, people are trying to get rid of some of the stuff. So you're like, I'm hitting this up on Sunday. I'm like, tight, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
And like just seeing like the minis thing was really cool, and like I'm all about that vendor hall. Like, speaking of, actually, I'm very seriously considering being a vendor myself. Offering my wares as a tattoo artist, so I don't know. I'd have to look into that. There's probably health code stuff that I'd have to look into, but
Are you talking about doing like live tattooing in the hall?
yeah, like it's a convention. I think it's pretty live tattooing.
Well, I mean, I let me rephrase. I guess more rather than like design and like people would come to you and be like, "Hey, I want to get a tattoo," and you would be
I would not do custom designs. No,
Gotcha.
I would have a sheet of pre-made designs, flash, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
That would be game related, and if somebody wanted to pay a fuckload extra, I'd be happy to do a custom design. But I'm thinking just having it would be so. There's tattoo conventions that we go to, and that's usually how it works. You have a book of things that you've prepared just for that convention, and you hope that people flip through it, like it, and grab it. So. Yeah, my boss was actually talking about me. He's like, "Yeah, you think we could do a tattoo thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, there are a lot of people with tattoos, so I think that would be really cool." And have it like, game related design. So I actually started making some. I did the Demi-Lich design recently, and I've got I'm doing a type of
hashtag liked by Chris Perkins, but no big deal.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Chris
I
Perkins.
didn't see that.
Yeah,
GenCon.
It popped up on my feed that said Chris Perkins liked this tweet by @Visual Warlock, and I was like,
No,
what?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Chris Perkins followed Venture Maidens on Twitter. Brittany and I were in our hotel room, and I was like, Brittany.
You were asleep. I screenshot that shit while you were passed out.
Well, then I woke up, you forgot to tell me, and then in the morning I was like, Brittany! And you're like, oh yeah, whatever, I knew since yesterday. I'm like, it's Chris Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was really exciting. I didn't know he liked my Demi-Lich, like, fucking shit. That's tight as shit. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Well,
oh my tattoo life. Get that shit as a tattoo.
I think James actually tweeted it retweeted it at Wizards. So I think that's where but anyway, we're getting off track.
Thanks.
Oh, we never do that.
No, it's fine. I'm like I said, my hour-long podcast was often 2 hours plus because I would just ramble on. But anyway, so the vendor hall, yes, tattooing is not a unheard of thing. The Wizard World conventions are really big for that. But they typically, people will that will be something that's ticketed ahead of time. It's very rare that somebody's going to walk up and be like, "Hey," or at least at those conventions, it's usually like, "Hey, I'm going to come to the convention. I'm going to be there." And they kind of they have so many booths, so many tables, and they set that stuff up ahead of time. And then people come in for that.
I would need to contact them.
Sure, obviously.
Now. Yeah,
but
I've been looking into it, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
So I think we've pretty much beat the vendor hall topic here. Great stuff. Everything from, like we said, local artisans to small-time shops to big brand name things like major websites that sell things. Also, again, like Monopoly, USAopoly, doing their thing. Like, tons of stuff. So, did you guys spend any time in the demo hall, which was directly connected to the vendor hall?
So I tried to get into the demo hall a couple times, and each time we tried to go, everything was full, everything was booked. So they're like, "Oh, you just missed the wait," or "Oh, okay, you couldn't quite get to." So we just didn't quite. We saw it, and we almost got to participate, but every time it was like, "No, not quite the right time."
Well, I guess I will. It was put on. I believe it was put on by the folks from Double Exposure, who I could be wrong, but they are a company. They're actually, I think, local to the East Coast out here. They actually do a convention in Jersey where it basically they just provide games and things and folks that are educated on how the games work to teach people how to play them. I actually did. I spent a lot of time in there Thursday night because it was the only thing that was open, and then Friday morning I went there first thing. And basically, this is a massive hall, even probably arguably bigger than the vendor hall, size-wise. And it's just rows and rows of games. It's from everything from, like, down the end, you have the Pokemon TCG card game and, like, Magic and, like, Warhammer, stuff like that. So there's, more organized things in that nature. And, there's people doing tournaments. But it is basically just game companies with their games for people to demo and play. Everything from, like, Munchkin and Steve Jackson games to, like, Catan to, brand new games that just came out. I went to get there first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock, Friday morning, and I went to the USAopoly booth. I sat down and played the Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts deck-building game. And my experience was I walked up and I said, "Hey," I was like, there were two people that were talking to somebody, and I just kind of, like, sidled up right next to them, and I was like, "Oh, hey. You guys need another player?"
AI.
And they're like, "We have a ticketed," or I think it was at 10 o'clock. They're like, "We have a ticketed event," meaning people put tickets in to get there. But it was like 10:15. She's like, "They're not here." So, sure. So then there was the person who was working it, took us over to the table, sat me and the two other folks down, and kind of told us, "This is how you play the game." And was like, "Here you go. Go ahead and play." And then somebody else ended up joining to be our fourth player. And then she set up another table down and was bouncing back and forth, answering questions. And we played through it, and we beat it. And at the end, they gave us, I don't know if this was every booth, but they're like, "Here, this is a Basilisk's Fang exclusive card that you can't get anywhere else but at GenCon to add to your copy of the game."
That's so cool.
Sick. Oh my gosh.
So I
would say maybe I just had a funky. Maybe, and Celeste, please tell me to shut the fuck up that this was a totally different experience from yours. My personal experience with the games and like stuff, that, tickets and whatever. I think if you really, really wanted to get into something, you could. Because I don't feel like we tried very hard. I think we had a couple of options and we were just like, I'm drinking my beer right now. I don't really want to rush over to this like 6 o'clock game. I mean, maybe, like I said, that was my perspective. My perspective of it was like, whatever. Like, if somebody like leads me to this game, I'll play. There wasn't a lot that I tried very hard to get into.
Let's just say, Brittany, I want us to go in a bigger group next year so some people can chill and I can be there at 8 a.m. in the demo hall all day. That sounds amazing to me.
Well, next year we're gonna plan this out better. We'll figure this out.
I was play games, but we
had a lot of drama for our trip. Just with our hotel situation and everything, but because I loved that idea, especially I kept hearing about the demo hall and I tried to get in, but it was just a little too inconvenient, random, or I would have loved to jump into random games, but again, that like accessibility just wasn't quite there. I still had a great time. Like my first night was actually one of my favorite nights. I was there Wednesday night when I arrived, when I was staying in the Murder Hotel. But I went to the RPG Academy board game meetup.
Sure. And
it was just a free room, in that big train station. And it was just like 50 people hanging out, bunch of tables, just playing board game. I played like 4 or 5 games. Got to meet just a bunch of folks that I'd heard of fringe-wise. And that was amazing. Just sitting in a free room playing games with some really cool people for like 5 hours. That was one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in the convention hall. I didn't need a badge. I didn't have
one. I think, like we said, 2 days, pay for, I don't know what the badge breakout is, if you can get like a 2-day badge. But that would be the way I would say to go.
Yeah.
Do a day, if you can manage it and stomach being there for that long, do a vendor hall all day. Literally, because you need a day to see everything. Because,
and like a grand.
Yeah, well, there's also that, but you need at least a day in there to see everything, because you're gonna miss stuff. There's so much stuff there. Yeah. And then maybe a day at the demo hall, maybe not even a full day. But what's great is like there are a lot of board games, new games, card games, board games that are coming out. They're expensive. Yeah. Do you want to drop $60 on a game that you might like? Because like I love Harry Potter. I actually really liked that game, and I'd been on the fence about buying it for a long time, but I'm a stranger to deck-building card games.
Right.
Am I going to get enough people, if my local friends that are going to be like, hey, you guys want to come over and play a game that I've never played before and sit with me as I read through the rulebook?
Right. Yeah. Come on.
So.
Yeah.
I could have easily dropped, there were 2 games that were $60 just for the core rulebook.
Right, let me go get it so we can hype it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So I'll tell the story. So Celeste and I were in the bathroom, and we walked out, and I'm looking at, I'm just kind of like looking at the massive things to look at, and I see this beautiful banner. It's just got the most beautiful artwork, my favorite artwork out of the entirety of the Underhall, which is really saying something. So I'm like, Celeste, I want to look at this real quick, and I drag her over to this booth, and it's this Scandinavian game called Ragnarok, and I think it's the Secrets of the Nirn, or the something of the Nirn. Norn, or
probably
Norn.
I don't know.
But the game is called Ragnarok, and so we instantly got swept away with this like Scandinavian man's description of this book.
I met the guy. He was pretty charismatic, so I'll give you that.
He has a natural 20 charisma. And so we got swept away with him talking about the Edda.
Talking about the beautiful Viking men.
Yes.
Who sold us this RPG.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Celeste, I dragged Ted over on Sunday. I was like, you just need... Yeah, and luckily he was explaining something to somebody, so I was like, just listen for a second. And then I felt creepy, and I was like, all right, we're good. Let's go get your minis.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I've got limited time here, Brittany. I need to go home. And she's like, but listen to this man speak. So anyway, you wanted to...
Did we talk about it? So, yeah, what I super enjoyed, I promised myself I would only walk away with 1 game from GenCon. I only gave myself room to bring, like, 1 book and 1 game.
There were a lot of competitors, for sure.
I know. But, so this RPG, it's called Fate of the Norns, so you can just kind of see this beautiful, like, Nordic-style cover art, and so I was just really impressed because I'd never heard of this RPG. It's rare to find an RPG system that's so well
Really
defined.
unique.
Well, and they have 3 or 4 books out already, and they've run a series of really successful Kickstarters, and it was crazy that I'd never come across my radar. They sell it on Drive-Thru RPG, but it's all about Norse mythology and like this age. It's right before Ragnarok occurs, so everything is falling apart. The gods
Sure.
have abandoned everyone, so it's just all these humans, and the whole thing is you're not like one human leveling through. You actually are meant to all your heroes die over the course of the game, and the more heroes that die in heroic ways, you get points that you can spend to make your future heroes better, and it's all about
It makes
it's
Their
really
whole-
cool.
Their hallmark was being super accurate with Norse mythology. That was one of the things the guy highlighted, was how true to Norse mythology that this game held.
One of the guys has a degree, a lingual degree, and
Oh,
actually
wow.
translated old Nordic texts into English, and then
That's pretty impressive.
So it's
some
And
Tolkienian shit right
One
there.
of my favorite parts about it, besides the art, obviously the artwork is my favorite, but they use runes instead of dice.
yeah.
So
You guys had told me about
do
this.
your actions. Yeah, that was just, I mean, that's a small thing, but I just like the attention to detail. If you look at the character sheet, it's full bleed, just graphics. It's the most, it's so beautiful. And each page, full bleed, fucking beautiful. It's just
Yeah,
every
so
single page.
we're gonna be live streaming it soon. Not with September, because of the podcast of Annihilation for Wizards of the Coast we're involved in, which is crazy and eating our lives. But after September,
Plug.
plug. You like how I
Perkins,
suddenly
what up?
snuck that in there?
Yeah, so subtle. It's like I didn't see that coming at all. Anyway,
yeah,
keep
I
going.
have 8 levels in Rogue.
Hmm.
So.
Yes, high diplomacy checks. So,
Hey,
beyond the...
diplomacy doesn't exist in 5th.
That's fine. Persuasion checks, I guess. Deception checks. Anyway, so we'll be looking
Yeah,
forward to
sorry.
that sometime in October, maybe later.
Yeah, probably October,
Okay.
when we're back on track, and we'll be streaming a bunch of.
Is
other
that going to
stuff.
be just like a one-off to try it out? Or are you guys going to try to make it a series, or do you?
Probably a one-off. What we would really like to move to is being able to pick up other RPGs and devoting 1 or 2 weeks to doing a little run through, with the maidens, just to get people exposure to the games. Or we'd
Sure.
love to reach out and play test games for folks, or new modules people are developing. That's really where I want to go with definitely our off weeks. for
Bear that in
streaming.
mind with MLP.
Listen, I mean, I'm looking. The box is right there. I'm looking right
that
at
game
it.
was tight as shit.
I
There-
love that game.
There is going to be a separate, probably not tonight because this is going to be we're halfway through the outline, but that's okay. We're going to lightning round a few things. So we're going to do a review of that. I'm going to do an unboxing video for you bronies and My Little Pony folks, as well as RPG fans, where I'll show you what the book is like and all of the things you get in the various products, and then give you kind of my overall thoughts on the book and the rule system, and then I'm going to grab these two ladies who played and get the opinion from someone who loves My Little Pony and someone who's relatively tangentially a fan of My Little Pony,
Yeah.
but also fans of
Very
RPGs.
deep
Talk about how character creation went, about building characters, about the system, about gameplay, the adventure, and so on. But let's keep going on what we're talking about. So there were all those gaming rooms, which, again, this is really not... we talked about the vendor hall, the demo hall. Basically, every other room that wasn't a hotel room where people slept in all the hotels and the vendor hall, was a room for people to play games in. Some of them were just open play rooms where people could just go and play games. Some of them were more designated to a company, which is unfortunate because due to the lack of structure, Cobalt Press was there. They had a room where people were playing Cobalt Press modules and things. Fuck if I know where it was.
Yeah, I couldn't. I would have loved to visit it.
I would have too.
It's one of our sponsors.
I've done a lot of playtest work and know a lot of the people over there. I would love to have met them in person, but I couldn't find them.
Yeah.
They didn't have a booth in the vendor hall. They had somebody selling their products, licensed to sell them, but they didn't have I couldn't find them.
Do you think they do that on purpose so that it doesn't get overcrowded?
Well, they
Yeah.
had, for instance, Brian Askren Exploding Dice was DMing for Cobalt Press. Like,
That's awesome.
his ticket was from Cobalt Press, and he had ticketed general event games that he did. I think they were Midgard-based games, because that's their campaign setting that got successfully kickstarted and is coming out next year, I think, or later this year. But maybe that's why. I don't know. But like I said, unless you know, like, it's more you need to know the company you're looking for and go to their stuff rather than trying to find it on the Gen Con site. Because, like,
You can't find it on the Gen Con site.
I didn't, like, you would think that at Gen Con, I didn't even know this, that it's at, like, Gen_Con is their Twitter. I didn't know they had one because I typed at Gen Con and it wasn't them. And I was like, well, I guess they don't have a Twitter. Makes sense, I guess. Moving on.
Yeah. I think for the Dragon Age RPG, Celeste had to, like, Google who the publisher was for that, because I was like,
we
I
could
want to
go and find where they were and what was happening.
That's what I mean. It's just there was no.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
Let's not harp on Gen Con's poor structure. We did a whole piece on that. There were a lot of LARP rooms. There was the whole True Dungeon thing, which we didn't do because we didn't plan ahead, because apparently you need to, like, start planning for that now to get into it.
When it launches immediately after. It's like Comic-Con. If you want to get a badge, you have to be on there 10 minutes beyond everything sold out. And people will sell them and then hawk them, which really
that's
sucks.
annoying. Can we, like, set up firewalls against that shit? I hate that. And
Listen,
I get that that's, like, super opportunistic or whatever, but, like, can companies start not doing that?
Listen, I will tell you a perfect example of this kind of a thing. I'm in line, waiting out front to get, like, walking the quarter mile or a full mile around to get into the Critical Role live show, and there is a dude on, like, a busted up old bike, not in, like, dude's got shambles of clothes. There's a type, right? So, and he's just, like, walking around like, anybody got an extra ticket? Anybody got an extra ticket? Anybody got an extra ticket? And, like, I'm walking along and one guy goes, like, are you a fan? And the guy's like, what? And he's like, well, are you a fan of Critical Role? Do you know what it's about? Do you like it? And the guy was just like, nah, I just want an extra ticket. So he could then go scalp it somewhere else. And it's like, someone flat out asked you if you like it, and you're just like, no. I'll be straight with you.
Props to that guy for being honest.
But like, come on. So there was
I'm talking about the assholes that, like, swoop online. You know, they have like $500 to, you know, grab a bunch of those and then sell it for, you know, double the price, and then, you know, they make their money back and then some. Like,
companies.
I get you can do that, but, like, stop being a dick. Like, can you not be a fucking dick? You're ruining it for everyone. You fucking ass.
Scalpers, you heard it here first, or at least documented for the internet. Brittany says, "Stop being a dick." So,
stop being a dick.
Don't do it anymore. Don't do it anymore, or you're gonna have to answer to her. So. Aside from True Dungeon, we found there were other LARPs. Didn't know anything about them. We just happened to be in the hotel, and we're like...
We walked around, and they were there.
There's a sci-fi LARP and, like, a D&D kind of fantasy LARP. People have weapons. There was... What?
Do you guys like to LARP?
So one of the conventions I've actually been to was the first Weird Con in California, which was Irvine, California. So it was just a purely LARP convention. I've never LARPed before. So I'm not like a big, you know, LARPer, but I loved that it was there too. So also that first night, Wednesday, when we were just playing a bunch of board games, there was one room, it was just the main train station, and everybody's just, like, hitting each other with foam swords in this mock battle, and everybody had, like, red and blue bandanas, and it was crazy, and it was amazing. So that was just so the spirit, like, and I think this room wasn't in the main hall. You didn't need a badge to get in, but all the rooms were filled with people playing board games, and then a giant pile of people hitting each other with LARP swords. And I loved it. That was amazing.
So it's just like, yeah, these people are just, like, hitting each other with foam swords, and I'm like, was it LARPing? And you're like, I don't know.
I have no idea, but it was great, and it looked so fun.
I probably won't ever LARP.
I would do it. I'll do it. I have friends that are like, "That's my line. I won't go." And I was like,
again, absolutely.
I would try it.
I mean, maybe I'd try it with. I would try it with you guys.
Okay, let's do it then.
Like, I've
Let's
already
make it happen.
halfway there with cosplay,
Yeah.
right?
Listen, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, other than the, like, I don't know. I mean, again, getting way off topic again, but there were like certain like the old White Wolf RPGs, like the old Vampire the Masquerade, and all those. There were books called Mind's Eye Theater that were books designed for you to take those games and then LARP them. Like, they had a whole series of books.
Well, you know, I'm a theater major, you guys, so I have a degree in LARPing.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess that is also true.
So...
I guess maybe I'm insecure. I would just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, like, so what?
Listen,
That's
it'll
magic?
be
You know, like
the only.
So,
they have some of them have systems that are.
And with good company, I would.
Let's do it. We'll make this happen. Listen, there are certain. Some of them, like, I mean, some of the ones that I've seen that are out there are, they are like, they have very defined systems. It is almost its own RPG system, in and of itself. But, you know, you got to get used to that and figure out how that works and know how points and HP and spells and things work, because that's all very well defined. It's just understanding it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, yeah, it's just beating each other up with foam weapons, or, you know, gesticulating at people.
My favorite, I'm sorry, we're so tangenting, but my only fantasy or D&D-esque LARP I got to do at the convention, where I played a wizard, and I was just so amazed when I wanted to cast light, and somebody handed me a glow stick, and it was a dark room, and that was all our party had to see. That was probably one of the coolest moments of my life.
See?
I don't know.
Some, like, random person.
No, one of the staff members, like, was crawling around, like, by the fake boat, and handed me a glow stick when I called out light, and it was great.
Listen, I mean,
those angel staff members, like, seriously.
Off topic, back on topic.
Right, yeah.
Also, to the conversation before, swear it up. Don't give a shit. It's all good.
Okay. Right on.
Be yourself. Be yourselves.
I was just checking what you're reading.
My reading.
Message like, Britt, stop swearing so much.
I didn't say stop. I said, Britt, you're swearing a lot. Ted, what is the rating of this show? I wasn't telling you to do anything.
This is. Listen, I don't have a rating. I just, people come sometimes. Listen. Sometimes there's a lot of cursing, sometimes there's not a lot. Sometimes Jake, who I play D&D with every Tuesday, yells at my other friend Sean, who says, "Sean, you DM, but you curse a lot. Can you cut back?" And it's like, Sean, Jake's mom is calling you out. You need to stop doing that. So...
Damn shade.
I never thought about this until I was interviewing on somebody else's podcast, and then I listened back to the podcast later, and I realized I had been bleeped, and I was like, oh, I never checked what the rating was. It's like, that's not, I'm like, oh no.
Okay, fun tidbit about Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
I got censored a couple of times, because I swear, sometimes I can have a full conversation without saying a single swear word, and that's cool. But also, I get on a roll, and I drop all sorts of words left and right. And I was like, here's the funny thing. I'm trying that leather armor on, and there's this guy decked out in full leather. He's got his mustache waxed, and he's,
Yep,
I'm just seeing the picture, right? This guy's like, at a leather booth, for shit's sake. And then like he's lacing up this corset thing, and he's like, all right, now turn around and fluff the girls. Okay, so this fool tells me to fucking fluff my boobs, and then 3 seconds later, I turn around, I'm like, holy fucking shit, this looks awesome. And he fucking corrected me. He was like, you mean tucking. And I'm like, what? Did you just...
It might have been a joke. I don't know.
I noticed that was 2 times that Brittany, at least in that time and one time in my presence, where people made comments, and it was... They were appalled. You were like, who are you to censor me? And that's the second time I've also heard Celeste be like, but maybe it was a joke. Because that guy was like, the guy in the restaurant was just like, I'm not going to answer because I'm in a nice restaurant. And we're like, was he censoring you? or was he making
he
a
was joking.
Yeah.
I thought he was joking at that point.
I think they were joking.
I don't think
know.
the dude. No, the
I don't
one guy,
know. I don't know if
not,
they were though.
I was super sober. I wasn't drinking when the dude with the waxed mustache was like, "Oh,
also, the leather guy wasn't from Indiana, so you know."
I think he was still from the Midwest. What I'm saying is, don't swear in Indianapolis.
Don't be a dick with your ticket sales, and don't swear in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
words.
We're not down with the swearing.
Listen, I'm gonna start a quote list of just Brittany quotes, and it's just gonna be like, "Don't be a dick with ticket sales, don't swear in Indianapolis," and it's just we're gonna build out over the coming years.
Yeah, you can hear them all on the podcast.
Yes.
Preserved for all of time.
I can't. I'll let you guys speak to this one as we're remember lightning round. Remember how that didn't happen?
Yeah.
Panels. You guys did a panel. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to go to it, and I didn't go to any other panels. Did you guys go to any other panels other than that one?
No, they were mostly ticket-based, so mostly sold out.
Well, how was it presenting in the panel experience from that side of things? Let's talk about that.
That was cool. I thought it was neat.
Yeah, it was really cool because, I mean, of course, our network, don't split the podcast network. They're relatively small, but most of the folks in it are really well connected. They've been in the material or in the world for a long time, published a lot of material, or just, worked on other podcasts. So it was cool. We had 15 people who showed up, but some really cool people with some really awesome background. And then we all just, the best part was, the panel was cool, whatever, answering questions. That's fine. We bullshit for a living, do a podcast, whatever. But that we all went out to a bar after, and we all hung out together, and everybody was so cool about that.
Cool.
Like, I got to talk to a lot of other people who've been podcasting for a long time, and got to ask them, like, hey, so what are your tips? Like, I'm really struggling with this. What's going on? Or just
what's
trading our opinions around, or telling stories, or just hearing that our frustrations other people are going through. It was just a huge opportunity to connect with like-minded people who are doing the same thing, and that everybody was excited to be in the same room talking about it. It was so cool.
We did catch the tail end. We caught the after party of the one-shot panel.
Yes.
Okay.
And just getting to meet the people that hosted that panel afterward, and how gracious they were and super nice, and
open
we had a couple which wasn't
open bar for 20 minutes.
Accident. Open bar. And we'll just
capitalized on that.
We were there early.
We did get to I touched base on a couple topics that they had discussed in their panel, and it kind of opened my eyes. I was like, okay, I think actually panels would be a big thing that I would come back for. I already made up my mind that I want to come back to GenCon, but I think I made it kind of clear earlier that I'm whatever about signing up for games and demos and stuff. But panels, I would really like to listen to. I think it sounded like there were a lot of really good panel topics. So I think one shot, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong about starting a podcast or starting something. Was that one of their topics? Did you guys remember?
I was riding on your guys.
Right on. I was 2 glasses of wine in.
Yeah, we were all pretty. That's a different story for an After Dark podcast about. Anyway.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good panels that. There was a starting. I think Geek and Sundry did a starting streaming, how to stream.
I think you were telling me about that, and that might be what my brain is mixing up.
There was also, I don't know if you guys know this, but on the second floor in the convention center, I walked by it, there were several craft panels. Come by and make a TARDIS dice tower. Come by and, make a scale mail dice bag. And there was a whole bunch of that. And then there was also just an open crafting room where, you go with your own crafts and just do your thing.
Yeah, I saw that with miniature. That was actually a few of the ones that I wanted to pay for, get tickets for. It was $10. I think most of the workshops were about $10. And you can go in, and you the ones that you listed were actually ones that I looked at. I was like, oh yeah, I would love to do that.
What? something on that note I super appreciated about Gen Con. They had designated rooms that were just chill out zones.
That's also
You
true.
needed to go and get away from people and then take a nap. They actually had rooms for that and accounted, which I thought was really gracious and thoughtful for the population there. We didn't end up using them, but I really appreciated them.
Quiet
That was a
rooms,
solid
I
move.
think they were
Yeah,
called.
they were quiet rooms. Like, you could just go and if you needed to sit down, they had a lot of couches. People were sleeping in corners with backpacks. Like,
I did that,
was
but
great.
it wasn't
It was
in a
perfect.
quiet room. I just did
Huh?
it. I said I did
Just
that
did it.
just in like a random hallway. But yeah,
but you can.
but you can do that. I probably wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, there was some video game presence there. I don't know if you guys saw this. They had like
I
an
like
arc.
the arcade games on the way.
It was $6 an hour and everything was open. Like that arcade,
Oh,
you paid
wow.
$6 an hour and every arcade in there, stuff from like Galaga to like Time Crisis 5, all of those things. $6 an hour, you walk in and everything is free.
Was it you I was talking to that I was upset that they didn't have Gauntlet there? Because otherwise I totally would have hung out.
We didn't talk about, but that would have been a
Okay.
conversation we would have had we had it. I would have agreed with you.
Gauntlet is like, that's always the arcade game I look for. But that was a really cool section down there, like right on the way to the stadium.
Mm-hmm. And there was also like a video game room that just had like console and PC free
Yeah.
play. That was also, you could observe in there for free, but you could pay
That's cool.
like a fee to get in and play. But I was like, oh, that would be cool. And they did have video game tournaments, so you could try to do the tournament play, and maybe this would be the tournament to get into because this is a board gaming convention. So if you're decent at a fighting game or something, maybe you'll win here because most of the people are there for the other kind of games. It's not like a dedicated Smash convention where you're just going to get wrecked because people are way better than you could perceive to be.
At everything.
There was the concert. You guys didn't go to the concert, did you?
No.
No.
This is the
We watched a
So-
lot of the live performers though, who were just hanging out like in the
Which
hall,
was super
especially
rad.
outside the expo hall. They had a stage, and they always had performers out there.
Yeah, they were actually, I don't remember, I don't have the program, but they had like names, like they were like known for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first year that they had a like a true concert. Like they might like an actual band, like they might be Giants, people that are like name,
I already saw them in San Francisco.
but they were there for the first time
yeah,
doing
right,
that.
which was so cool.
I just put it on there because I thought it was interesting. There was the hallway with just the massage chairs. Did you guys go and get a massage?
Yeah. Well, they had people who would just give you foot rubs. Again, another nice touch next to the quiet rooms. Stellar.
I had
Stellar.
planned to get a massage. It was like they would pay by like it went up to I think a half an hour was the longest you could get, and I was like, you know, it would be great before a 12-hour ride home, back massage. But that
Yeah.
wasn't in the cards. I spent too much time buying minis.
Dang it.
That was
Predictable.
that was one hell of a thing. I sat and hung out like.
I felt bad because
because
Brittany was just like right
But then-
behind me, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm buying all of these
I
things.
was trying to convey like, please don't apologize. I'm catching up on my text messages. Do your thing, because like people were swarming that mini pile.
It
The
was
last
Like-
day. Like,
it was
Yeah, you needed to focus. I was like, you
it was
you-
brutal, and then it wasn't. It was like a very surreal. It was basically that time at that mini booth was my Gen Con in a nutshell. So it started off just a lot of people, and I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. I was trying to get there, and mind you, those things it's good to get there on day one because the selection is bigger. What we're talking
Yeah.
about is like 10 bins, just chock full of minis from every set from the 70s to the ones that just came out. And they are there $4, $8, and $10. And you just go. You just get what you want.
Huh.
But
They're-
there's no bag, there's no basket. You're like, whoop, I got these in my hand. Oh shit, I lost my giant. Let me get that back. And
hands are too small.
you're just trying to, and like eventually I was like, can I have something to put these on? The guy gave me one of the lids for the bin. And I was like, cool, all of my minis are
Yes.
going here. But I was trying to get in there, like trying to worm my way in, and I was like trying to like pick through things, thinking about what I wanted, and it was a disaster. And then like some time went by, and I shifted into like the middle of the bin, and I was like in the middle of all the bins, and I was like, okay, things are going a little bit better. And I end up hanging out with, I know there are a group of critters that are also next to me. One of them's in cosplay. And I'm sitting there and I'm like digging through, and I'm like I found a knoll, and I was looking for knolls, and I was just like, and then like I didn't have to look in the first 4 bins because these people were looking through and they're like, oh, found another one, and they just found every knoll in those bins and just gave them to me because they were looking for their own stuff.
That's cool. You had some people like watching your back.
And I was just like, my Gen Con experience started off shitty and I couldn't do things that I wanted, and then like I hung out with cool people and everything just came around and was great. So my Gen Con, that was Gen Con in general, but also at the mini booth. Miniature version of that.
You know, one of my favorite stories is the way that so Ted met up with us while so I follow Matt Young and Usador the Blue on Twitter. And somebody said, you know, like, oh, hey, like, I think I tweeted, like, oh, is Usador at the whatever at Gen Con? And I don't expect a response. And that fool responded and was like, oh, Usador isn't, but Matt Young is. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, all right, I think it'd be really fucking cool to meet this dude and, like, shake his hand and say, hey, you're my favorite. High five. Can I take a picture? And he updated his Twitter to let whoever was looking know where he was at. So I was like, Celeste! Like, I basically, like, grabbed your face, and I'm like, I need to meet this guy.
Grab my face.
Yeah, and so we walked over. I felt like a weird-ass, like, creeper, but I was like, I guess this is what people do when they want to meet their fucking fan, you know, the people they look up to. So Celeste spotted him. Celeste was like, he posted a picture of himself with his homie. So
I was very good at Where's Waldo as a child.
Yeah. This guy wanted to be found. He he's taking selfies with his homie and like posting it to Twitter. So I was like, all right, he's doing this so people can find him. We found him. And then I'm like, shit, I don't know how to fangirl properly. Like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not a groupie. Like, I'm new.
So while Brittany's freaking out in the aisle about whether to talk to him, I'm like, okay, well, Nerd Immersion is going to be here, like, any minute. Like, I told him we're at this booth.
I'm good. I'm like, good. That means I have some time, because, you know, like, Ted's got to find us, so I have time to, like, work up my... So, but here's the thing. This dude, Matt Young, had just sat down for a game. So I'm not going to interrupt him. I'm not going to fucking interrupt him.
Nope,
I don't want
she wasn't going to do that.
I was not going to do... So
not even for 2 minutes.
Poor Celeste had to wait. And then hi Ted, nice to meet you. I'm sorry, I'm really fucking distracted right now. So that's basically how we met.
Me hanging out with him was just the first 20 minutes. We were standing there waiting for Brittany to decide whether or not she was going to talk to Matt Young.
Yeah.
So
but I sure as hell waited till he was done.
We left.
Yeah, I mean, I did everything I could to expedite this. I walked right over there, and I was just like,
yeah,
come on.
Like, did this thing,
well,
and I was like...
how I knew I was going to like you immediately, because you're trying to cut through Brittany's shit the same way I was for the past 20 minutes. I'm like, alright, we get each other.
Yeah.
There we go.
And at one point I knew okay, I'm having massive anxiety. I'm not going to make my friends wait. So I was like, Ted, you guys go on without me. I will rendezvous with you later. Just, I got to do this. I got to do this my way, because I'll like pass out if I got to do this. So,
and then, yeah. And then I told Celeste that, and she's like, yeah, whatever, we're out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, you guys bounce. Let's go to a bar.
So, yeah, and then again, we talked a little bit about the events. There was a ton of events, more than we could ever mention here, from everything from, like, concerts to live shows of major things to all sorts of Gen Con specific events, like you saw at the beginning where people are building all those card castle, like the card houses out of magic cards for charity, and then at the end, the people pay to break it to knock them down. Like, that's all part of it. It's, like, a lot of cool stuff. So let's talk, we talked a little bit about it, but how about your Gen Con haul? What did you guys bring home from Gen Con? What did you get while you were there? Did you get anything? I mean, we know the one RPG system. Anything else?
One RPG system and the leather armor piece and a ton of pins from other podcasters. I think I aggressively traded our pins with a bunch of other podcasters. So I actually got home and I dumped out my purse and I had 9 or 10 different pins, and then I had like 20 business cards from different people. And I do not specifically recall getting most of those business cards, but we did go to a lot of parties.
Yeah.
And met
It's
a
like
lot of
that
people in bars.
Workaholics episode where they just want business cards.
It's just like, I was just trading hers like crazy. I kept having to yell at Brittany, like, I need more business cards. I gave out so many.
That was
business
Saturday
cards.
night in a nutshell right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was worth it. I bought those to give away, man.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Brittany?
So-
Did you get anything? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
So
Celeste.
go for it.
So no, Celeste, did you have?
Did you get anything
No,
else?
I thought it was funny how many business cards I went through, but
Yeah.
go for it.
I scored that sweet picture with Matt Young. I'm stoked. I would say I really fucking loved meeting people. I think that was actually my favorite part. That's what I scored, and the only other physical thing that I looted from Gen Con was that sweet. Yeah.
Making us my answer look bad.
I got this sweet brooch that I wore with my cosplay outfit that was so severely underpriced. I want to tell that booth, you could probably up your prices a bit and that would still be okay. Yeah, it was a bow and arrow. I call them fibulas because I think that's what they're actually supposed to be called. Those metal brooches for cloaks specifically.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a bow and arrow. We learned that you were on your way to become an Olympic archer, and then we bonded about archery.
I don't know if you can see, but actually, I moved them. I forgot I moved them all upstairs to make room for more minis. I used to have all my archery trophies were all over there, but I moved them all because I have more minis than I have trophies. So, yeah, I picked up. Let's see. Obviously, a lot of minis. That was definitely a thing. I picked up my copy of the Tal'Dorei campaign setting, which I pre-ordered and got that from Green Ronin Games. I picked up these, which I will plug these from the folks at Cobalt Press. 3 extremely useful books that are also a collection of essays for any gamer, but really DM specifically. The Kobold Guide to World Building, the Kobold Guide to Game Mastering, and the Kobold Guide to Plots and Campaigns.
Right on.
These are a collection of essays from people you've probably heard of, like Monty Cook and Wolfgang Bauer and Chris Pramus and Jeff Grubb. A lot of folks heavily designed around lore and things of that nature and building games. A lot of those folks are game designers themselves, have done countless things, and this is just them telling you all about them. And I started reading the world building one. I've read 3 or 4 of the essays, and it's crazy. Talking about things, world building from an author's perspective versus a game designer's perspective versus a game master's perspective. Really cool stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, I feel like I picked up a lot of dice too, and
Oh yeah.
some stuff from the folks at Elderwood Academy because I love them and they're great. Go ahead.
That was tight. I had the great pleasure of standing next to you. You took me to that booth, and those folks are really awesome. Really, really awesome. I've actually seen Elderwood Academy promos on Twitter. I think Celeste, does Drop the Die do a review of them?
I think
they did. Yep.
I think he did, yeah, because that's our other favorite Twitter user, Drop the Die, and he did a really stellar review of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then hearing your super positive review and seeing what you were reviewing in person, and then of course going to their booth. Holy moly, I cannot wait to have an extra $120 to drop on a dice tower or a spell book.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like a lot of money, but actually that's not for what you get and the amount of the superb craftsmanship that goes into those custom made things. $120 is nothing. That's nothing. Oh my god. So I'm really excited. I really want to save up and get something from them because, I was really blown out of the water. With their stuff. They were nice.
They're super nice and they're super accommodating. If you guys have questions or want, to maybe do something a little bit custom, which I'm excited because I'm working on getting something custom for myself. So we'll see how that comes in the future. Yeah. some Nerd Immersion branded stuff in the future just for me.
Lucky.
Well, that way when I go play games at conventions, they can be like, "Oh my God, what is that symbol on your spell book, and what is that from?" And I'll be like, "Let me tell you. Here's my business card. Also, Elderwood Academy." Yeah, and then all right, so we kind of beat through everything, and we're probably gonna try to keep this to an hour and a half if we can, but we'll see. So, Celeste, let's get your final thoughts on Gen Con. What you liked, what you didn't like, the overall review. And we kind of already talked about it. We're all going back next year, so I don't even have to ask that question.
Absolutely.
So, final thoughts, Gen Con 50.
Final review.
Yes.
I really enjoyed my time there. I feel like there were a lot of things I could have taken advantage of more, and I am more prepared with my knowledge now for next year. I think I'm going to have a great, really positive experience next year, which is going to be a balance between attending convention events and then also meeting people. But the reason this year was such a positive experience was not because of anything we did on the convention grounds. It was just meeting incredible people, being in a situation and a place where it wasn't weird for 1 second that we were there. Everybody was so socially accepting and gracious and wonderful and kind. The environment was great. Honestly, playing games in bars with a bunch of people was my favorite part. It just was the best, and so highly recommend. I'm so excited to go back next year and get more gaming under my belt from it, because I think there's a lot of huge potential.
Excellent, well-crafted answer. Brittany, what do you got?
I already said I definitely am going back next year. I think a lot of the, I can't even really say that they were negative experiences, but I think the fall through with our accommodations actually affected our time at Gen Con the most. So that's not Gen Con's fault. That's, our accommodations. And I think I think planning for better accommodations next year will absolutely more positively affect my experience at Gen Con. I think the con itself, I loved. I think, I loved the vendor hall. I'd actually would be down to go into the demo hall. So just being able to see these things and how comfortable it was on the convention grounds, that alone, made me want to come back and explore more of it. And then, of course, the amazing relationships that we were able to establish and build and open up, meeting new people and going to the after parties and all that. Fuck yeah. I can't wait to do more of those. I hope next year that we actually might have our own panel. Venture Maidens panel. That's actually a big goal. I think that's very achievable. So obviously for personal reasons, I want to go back to Gen Con, but also I'd like to go back to do a Venture Maidens panel. So and maybe tattoo.
Yeah. Hey, we talked a little bit about that. Yeah. I told this to a bunch of people, and I'll gush a little bit because I can, and this is my channel. I'll do what I want. But Friday. If you asked me Friday night if I would have gone back to Gen Con, the answer would have been an unequivocal no. I would not have gone back to Gen Con. On Thursday night I just got there, so that doesn't really count, and I slept in my car, so just a trio of bad decisions. Or a duo, I guess. But Friday, I felt like shit, probably because I slept in my car and was dehydrated and slept in the convention hall. But I just didn't have a good time. I booked a hotel. I went to the Critical Role live show. I met some friends there. I had too many beers and fell asleep in the live show. And then I walked back. I didn't eat dinner, so I was like, what do they have at the concession hall? I was like, cool. Okay, we're going to have popcorn and Skittles and Starbursts and a soft pretzel and 2 beers. And then, I went and sat down. I'm there with somebody who I, just met, who I knew online. I was like, cool, hold all my beers while I climb over my last row seat to, settle in. And then I'm, stuffing my face with food. And then he left, and then I fell asleep. So that was not hang out with him and going to the live show, fun. But I still would have not gone back. Saturday morning, I said, screw trying to meet up with anybody else. I've been trying to do that for 2 days, and it hasn't happened. I'm going to go fucking play some D&D, and I'm going to get that out of the way. So I did that first thing in the morning, and I had a blast. We didn't die. and I was useful in the group because I was the only cleric, so that helped out. And then I left the hall, and I get a message from Celeste, and it says, "Hey, we're here. Here's what we look like. Brittany's stalking Matt Young. Come hang out." So,
We'll be here for a while.
and I'm like, cool, this is my intro to these girls who I know from the internet. One of them stalking somebody else. Well, at least I'll have a story. So I head over to the convention hall. And yeah, from there, my Gen Con experience just did a complete 180. And I met these two lovely ladies, and we hung out. We went to a bar. We went from that bar to another bar. To another bar. I mean, that is irrelevant.
We played some games in there, and then we went to the state. We did a lot of stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
We walked a lot.
We did walk. There was a lot of walking going on. But yeah, meeting these two and then going to the after parties and meeting up with some other friends of mine, introducing people, meeting other people that I, whose business cards I have in a stack over there that I still have to go through.
Yeah, I have.
But it was just meeting the people that I met just turned this convention around for me and made it an experience so enjoyable that there is no question in my mind that I want to go back again. And there's no question in my mind of who I want to spend my time with when I'm there. I want to spend it with my new friends. And I want to do what we did. I want to go to bars. I want to go play games. And just have fun, and maybe if we figure out how Gen Con works, or they get their shit together for Gen Con 51, we'll actually pick events to go to, because we'll know how to find them.
We've got to do at least one puzzle LARP.
Or an escape room or something.
I'd be down for that, especially in cosplay. Like, I'd probably really get into it.
I mean,
I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, I just spent, for my one character, today 3D printing my holy symbol of Timora right here, so I can go and paint that and finish building out my character. Because
Timora?
Yes, that is a homebrew design. The only thing I've ever had that was liked by Chris Perkins was I had a friend do me an updated version of the Timoran holy symbol, because they didn't do one for 5e. They did one for like every other god except for her. So, what the fuck?
It wasn't printed, but they did describe it in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide as like a golden coin with like the woman's face and profile, right?
Okay, the fact that Brittany just pulled that out of her butt.
Yep, and that's...
What?
No,
you weren't... That was that dungeon. Hey guys, there's a one-shot you can listen to where Brittany has a dungeon.
Yes,
yeah, it...
Describing a river.
They have visual images of all of them, pretty much, except for like one or two gods. They updated Bashaba and a bunch of these other ones, and some of them got really nice updates. Like Mistra's previous symbol was kind of crap, and the new one I think is great with the book and the 7-pointed star. I'm getting off track yet again, but I printed this because I need to finish building.
Out with the maidens.
Yeah, I have to finish
stay on track.
building my armor, and I will full on. I mean, I love cosplay, so I'm down. So. That is everything that's on my list to talk about. I feel like we went over our final thoughts, but how about we send a dedicated section here for you to just plug away. Plug. Tell us more about who you are, and what is this podcast of annihilation thing? All these things we've mentioned casually. Tell us more.
Brittany, do you want to go? Do you want me to do it?
I just opened up the chat thing because I really have to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to let you talk.
Okay.
I was going to dip out while you talked about Podcast of Annihilation.
All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. So one of the reasons Gen Con was so cool was because on Thursday or Friday of the con, we finally got to announce that Venture Maidens is one of 10 actual play podcasts that are involved with the Podcast of Annihilation project. So I'm sure you all watched or tuned in or heard about the Stream of Annihilation. Basically, Wizards of the Coast, their new book is coming out, Tomb of Annihilation. And so as part of the promotional series, Not to Be Left Behind, a bunch of us podcasters got together and went, us too. So we got the book ahead of time, everything. So we've all been working together and putting together these cool hybrid groups to record our own takes and kind of adventures using the Tomb of Annihilation book. So you can look out for all of that. I think we're launching September 19th?
Yeah. I don't know, but you can check the video that I put out last night where I did a weekly update, and I did a whole section just about the podcast of Annihilation.
Oh, that's amazing. I will totally check that out. Yeah, on my calendar, I have my due date. I'm not sure when the published date is, though. But
I think it's the 19th. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that's the one. And then over the next, so the Monday through Friday, we're actually the Thursday group that's launching. So you can check us out. We recorded a special episode with a bunch of other AP podcasts. So we had guys from You Meet in a Tavern, the Taking Initiative podcast. They were both guests on our show who played, and then I've done an all DM game with a bunch of the other people, and we're going to be doing a live stream, a 24-hour live stream coming out. It's going to be crazy. So Venture Maidens is incredibly stoked to be part of a Wizards of the Coast project. So check that out. We're going to be posting a lot about that again on our website, theventuremaidens.com. Please follow us on Twitter @VentureMaidens. If you want to follow me, @CConowich on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, all of them.
Well,
Reddit.
why don't we, how about this? If people want to listen to the Venture Maidens, or they want to catch you guys live, where do they go to do that?
So I made it I'm a woman of simplicity, and you literally can listen to our podcast from our website. I embedded all of the episodes.
Sure.
You can also watch our Twitch stream from our website. But if you really, really insist on going analog and typing that in yourself, you can find us on basically any podcast
apps. So
apps,
iTunes, Spreaker, Google Play, Podbean,
all of those. And then for our Twitch stream, it's on the Don't Split the Podcast Network Twitch. So don't type in Venture Maidens. I've had a couple of people like, I can't find you. And I'm like, it's on DSPN.
I will put all the links to everything they've just mentioned in the description of this video. If you'd like to see all that, you can see everybody's Twitter handles here on the overlay itself. But in the description, we'll have a link to a whole Venture Maidens, all of their stuff, along with the dates to see them live on Twitch. It's every other Wednesday at 10:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific.
I just can't stress enough. It's literally all on the website.
Yes.
Like, just go to the website.
Go to the website, guys.
Just go to the website. There's
all there.
Don't be a dick when it comes to buying tickets. Don't curse in Indianapolis, and just go to the website.
There we go. We've learned it. This is our review. All the main bullet points.
Yes. But yeah, you can see all of that stuff a lot of the time. Hey, you know what's funny? If you guys go and check out my weekly stream where I build a random character from D&D, it backs right up to the Venture Maidens live. So you can come and watch it with me, where I built Darth Vader last week, and then we all, from my channel, jumped
to the Venture Maidens?
Jumped right over to the Venture Maidens over on Don't Split the Podcast.
Channel. I watch your channel. I watch it while I'm drawing and while I'm sewing.
I'm just saying,
and then
like,
I got all snarky with my comments. I'm like, I'm not.
I know. I sit there and I'm like, well, I know she's watching because she's making comments on everything I make. So, but yeah, they're great. The show is great. DM and the players are great. They're a group that I feel like, if you like the stuff that happens here on our channel, I feel like you won't have any problem. Like, if you're coming from my channel to theirs, if you like what we do, you'll like what they do. They have a very similar style. Very similar feel to the way things are done, although it's not in the same room, it's done over the internet. It still has that same kind of classic-y, old school gamers coming to play a game together, and they have the role play, and the story is there, but also it's still goofy and it's still people playing a game. Like, I need another beer, I'll be right back. Which we do, but that's just walking next door to the fridge.
Oh, I thought you were for real. I was like, go get that beer.
Yeah, dude, you go.
No, but you get my point. Yeah, normally that's us walking to the next room to the beer fridge and then coming back in here. For them, it's leaving the little window that you watch them on, but you get the point. So, again, long story short, GenCon's great. You should go if you can. We're going to be there next year. You should come hang out with us, or don't. Do your thing.
If you need help, I think people do need to reach out and get some help. I mean, we were very fortunate. We had a lot of invitations to things, and that kind of guided things, so feel free to reach out, especially if you want to reach out to Venture Maidens. We are totally happy to give you sage advice on whatever.
I thought about saying this earlier. I'm going to say it now because now's the best time. I want to make our accommodations I want to be able to walk to the convention center, and the only way to be able to do that is to get 10 people into one fucking hotel room, and I'm down. I'm super down, but that's like, you know, $400 a night, so
there's really 3 right here.
Like cram some people in
we
there.
got 3 out of 10, so
listen, I've been doing my research. We're gonna make it happen.
I want to be in the
I'm
Hyatt
looking at you.
for shit's sake. Like, I really want to make that happen, and really the only way to do that is if we have like a lot of people sharing a room. So if you think you can hang with us, with our
you do realize you're putting out on the internet inviting strangers to come stay in a hotel room with us.
No. I'm appealing to the people we know that are watching this. Sorry.
Yes, not everybody that watches my YouTube channel. That's fine too. They're watching too.
YouTube channel.
If you feel like you have a snarky comment to make on that, please, you can tweet it to me or comment on my video, and I will make sure that it gets its way to Brittany so she's well aware. Anyway, to your point, yes. Get a lot of people together and cut that $400 hotel room down to a reasonable price. Or you're going 10 miles outside of the city. So I'm not going to look because it's going to change my overlay and the message was going to pop up on the screen. So I'm going to check that after. So anyway, guys, final thoughts before we go and call this hour and 36-minute interview over, or review over.
Yeah.
I have one comment to say.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
And that is, we're all homies. Like, we became homies, like, right away. And I think if you're going to Gen Con for the first time, you'll definitely walk away with a similar experience. Like, just being open to it. And we're going back as, like, homies to be even tighter homies next year.
Say homie again.
It's a safe space to find your people, and I cannot wait to explore more. Highly positive, do it, not that expensive badge-wise to go. So, and don't let that discourage you. Don't let anything discourage you, because it's worth it in the end.
Yes. Yep. Go enjoy yourself. If you want to tailgate a convention, this is one where you don't even have to tailgate. You can go in and see things, so you don't have to spend the money. And, you know, they probably don't want us to say this, but they don't check whose name is on the badge, so you can just get in. It doesn't really matter.
Don't say anything.
I won't say
anyway.
It, but, yeah.
So, you could, if you have friend who goes in, they can sneaky do that, like, pass you the badge, like, you know, I got into the concert, now let me pass you my ID kind of situation. You can do that, and they won't care. But anyway.
I think everybody's like down to be nerdy together. That was like the overall feeling that I got. Even like the people working, the volunteers that were working the convention, everybody's like, right on. We're all here like to be nerdy together. I felt that very overwhelmingly, so
yeah.
It's good.
So, do you have anything you want to say, Celeste, before I'm gonna
Thank you so much, Ted, for having us on.
Oh, yeah,
we
of course.
love Nerd Immersion and everything this channel does. So thank you so much for hosting us. And everybody, if you were here watching for us for some reason, you should also be watching his channel all the time.
And that goes the other way as well. If you're watching...
You already did that. So thank you for your kind words. Thank you for hosting.
Well, anyway, thank you guys again for coming out and checking out this video. Be sure to check out the Venture Maidens as well as all the various stuff that comes out here on this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a little long, but stick through to the end. It's all good stuff. So yeah, anyway, thanks for checking it out. I guess we'll see you for the My Little Pony RPG review.
Yes, My Little Pony, or maybe next GenCon. Catch you then.
Yeah, that's also true. And I guess till then, you can,
venture away.
Venture away.